Hello and welcome to another knitting pod. Happy New Year's, my friends. I'm so happy to be sitting down with you today. I am Lena. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. I hope you enjoy this bit of time we get to spend together. If you're a regular viewer, thank you for coming back. I hope you've had a lovely holiday. And I hope you are as happy as I am to be back into normal routine. For me, the best part of vacation sometimes is realizing how much I love my normal, daily, boring life. And that's a really good feeling. I hope you feel that way too. We have a lot to get to. It's been a couple weeks. It's been really hectic. I just cannot even tell you, but you all have been constant companions to me. Whenever I'm not able to tape regularly, I feel like I am having mental conversations with y'all. So I'm really excited to sit down with you. Let me give you a quick idea of what we're going to do today. It's the beginning of January. I would love to do like this really inspirational January knitting podcast, but I have not prepared that today. So today we're going to just have a normal podcast where we talk about the things I've been knitting and then other stuff at the end of the podcast. In the rest of this month, I will do a podcast about things I really want to knit this year, and then another podcast about everything I knit last year, showing you every single thing. So you have that to look forward to. Today, we're just going to catch up old school, normal, non-January style. Okay, let's jump right in. The project that has been just everything for me this month, or not this month and last month, has been my rain or shine blanket. I have it in this bag that I forgot I had. This is a bag from Renninger Wool Company that I got in a couple years ago at a fiber festival. And this is a photograph of one of their sheep. And there's like a little poem on the back. And I just love this bag so much. It's so flexible in what it will allow me to stuff into it. And my daughter had taken it for some craft supplies, and I found it and I took it back because it was literally just shoved full of stuff. And it's perfect for this blanket because this is a blanket that is growing and growing and doesn't fit into any other bag. Let me show you before I go on and on about my feelings about this. Oh, shoot. Don't tell me I'm in the middle of a row. Of course I'm in the middle of a row. That means I can't show it to you properly, but almost at the end, so I can sort of show you. Let me try. It has grown quite a bit, you guys. I'm so frustrated right now. I should have checked. Here's the beginning. I cannot wait to get back to these colors because these are the colors I was most looking forward to. And since I started with them, they are just barely there, but I can't wait to get to the really long rows with those. And then it goes into all these other gorgeous colors. And right now, I have gotten to, let's see if I can show you at least for the color progression, through the greens, the blues, the dark blacks and charcoals, into a whole lot of really beautiful tonal grays. Let me show you up close. From afar, they might look like just a chunk of gray, but as you can see, I hope you can see, they're actually subtly, different. And I just love this for so many reasons. If you are new here, I'm making this blanket out of linen quill minis. I bought the whole set on sale when it came out because I couldn't not. I'm a huge linen quill fan. It is hands down one of my favorite yarns. And when it came out in like this gorgeous rainbow of colors, I could not resist. I actually ended up buying a second packet, and I'm so glad I did because I started realizing there was going to be a time when the rows got so long that each little small ball, let me show you, like they look like this. I can't remember how much is in each. Let's see, it is 25 grams, 109 yards. I knew there was going to be a time when I was going to not have enough yarn in each ball to finish one section. So what this blanket is, by the way, I didn't say this. This is a blanket by Stephen West, rain or shine blanket. You hold two strands together and you marl it and you drop one and pick up another. So each yarn color is used in two of these. You increase on every single row. So it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a square blanket. It is not rectangular. So I figured, because I want to make it really big, I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. And to boot, I'm loving the process of it so much that I don't want it to end. I'm happy for it to be my eternal project. And I just knew in order to get it to the size I wanted, I was going to need more yarn because I want to continue the way it is. I don't want to have to like make do by adding a new yarn before that section is over. Do you know what I'm saying? So I am at the point where the last time I dropped a yarn off, I had finished the ball. So now I know that the blanket is getting bigger. I'm going to be going into that second packet. I hope this is making sense. I'm telling you this because if you too want to make this blanket, that's how much yarn you're going to need for a really big size. If you want it to be smaller, like a baby size or just a lap blanket or a gift or something, then you could probably get away with one packet. Again, let me see if I can hold it like this so you can see what a gorgeous color progression. It's hard to understand how beautiful it is unless you see the whole thing. One thing I really love about it is all the neutrals. I think rainbow can look, I love childish. I think bright colors and sparkles and all that just, it rings my bell. But in order to make it a little more sophisticated looking, I think when you add in all those really, that very comprehensive range of gray and black, it just makes it look more interesting and breaks up those bright colors really well. So honestly, I have loved these sections that add that groundedness to all the bright colors. Because then, these colors really pop. If you didn't have these browns and caramels and sepia colors, then that would just kind of get lost in a sea of brightness. Do you know what I'm saying? So I actually also added some yarn. I told you guys this last time, but I'm going to show you again. This yarn is Isair, I can't remember. I think it's called like Alpaca 2 or something. It's half wool, half alpaca. And it, to me, is very similar to linen quill. So you can see how similar they are. The Isair is a little bit finer in terms of, this is light fingering and this is even lighter. Also, this does not have linen. It's just wool and alpaca, whereas linen quill, obviously, has linen in it. But because this has a higher percentage of alpaca, it still has a texture to it that linen gives this. So I felt like it was perfectly fine to throw this in. I have 4 undyed colors of this that I had bought for a different project, and I just wanted to use it because I wanted to make it so much bigger and I wanted to add more of this gray. I have been throwing that in there and I think it looks gorgeous. Like this here, hold on. These 2 stripes have this really pretty like slate gray thrown in, and you can see how subtly it adds dimension in there. So I have been picking this up at every single turn. I even take it in the car or to games when I'm going, because honestly, I have felt like there's very little else I want to knit. My life has felt extraordinarily packed. Vacation was very packed. We always go on a ski vacation at Christmas time, But this time we went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and the mountain there is so much more challenging than every other mountain that we normally go to. I'm a very intermediate skier. I have zero desire to become a more advanced skier. I am not an adventurous person. I am a very happy to be in a safe zone kind of person. So skiing crazy stuff is just not something I want to do. And so their blues and double blues are so much harder. Their double blues are undoubtedly like blacks on other mountains. So every day we would ski and I would just be so stone cold wiped by the end of the day, not only physically, but also emotionally, because for me to get brave takes a lot of energy. So literally I took 3 different projects on my ski trip, and this was the only thing I wanted to knit. I could have only taken this. And then since we've got back, life has been unbelievably hectic also. So I need something that takes zero mental energy from me. Like, I don't have very much mental bandwidth to follow a pattern or even refer to a pattern. And this is just the most rhythmic, soothing pattern that I never have to refer to something. And the colors just give me that feeling that I can't describe, that knitting, that's what the joy of knitting is for me. So this has been, I don't want to say a lifesaver because my life doesn't need saving right now, but just a source of great peace and soothing and comfort and quiet in the middle of a lot of kind of chaos, if that makes sense. Anyway, all that to sum up, this is such a beloved process for me right now, and I know it's going to be a beloved final object, and I am in no rush at all. This might be the size of my house by the end of it, because I could literally keep on knitting this and buy packet after packet of linen quill. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, I've told you this before, but if you are new here, I do want to mention that I have thrown in bits of a 3rd strand of mohair in different parts. If it were up to me and like cost and resources were no object, I would buy every color of Knitting for Olive mohair and add it to this blanket, but that's absurd, so I'm not going to do that. But I want to say 3 or 4 different mohairs, some left over and some that I purchased. I haven't gotten to use the orange one because this orange section is my absolute, unexpectedly, like, orange is 100% one of my least favorite colors. But this super orange color mixed with the red and the peach, I'm just in love with it. So I bought Hokkaido, which is an orange, a really bright orange from Knitting for Olive. I bought it after I started, so I haven't gotten to use it, so I cannot wait to use it. I also have used like a brown, which was leftover, so you can see it's fluffy there. I also threw in like a neon hedgehog fibers. I'm trying to show you the floof vector, called UFO. And then I have a blue that I threw in from Knitting for Olive that I don't remember the name of, but it was a very like violety blue. So it added more dimension in this section. And in addition, it added a fluffy variant. So like I said, if it were up to me, I would add so much more mohair, but look, I could buy yarn until the cows came home, but I'm always trying to use more than I'm purchasing, because having a lot of stash kind of is crazy making for me. So I don't want to buy any more, and I just want to keep knitting this and enjoying it. And if you have been tempted to make this at all, I cannot recommend it enough. I've said this before, but some of my favorite projects from Stephen West are the simpler ones. Like, I love some of his crazy complicated stuff. Like, I love Exploration Station, that whole sweater, shawl, blanket world. I love that. But sometimes I like more of his just simple rhythmic pieces. They are just lovely. I saw today that he is releasing another one that's kind of similar to this pattern called Glow something. I got an email. I didn't have time to look at it, but I literally gasped when I saw it. I gasped. So that's something to check out. Okay, let's put Rain or Shine blanket away. Also, I know you probably already know this, but he has a shawl version of this that I would totally make if I wasn't wanting to make a blanket. If you don't want an eternal project, make the shawl. It would be, you could just pick a smaller number of colors. They have started selling those linen quill minis in smaller packs, also not just the comprehensive one, but one that's more neutrals, and I feel like one that was more bright colors. You could use that, or you could make it out of leftovers. That would be delightful. Okay, I could talk about that blanket forever. I have my notes here because I have too much on my mind to just wing it today. I wish I had stitch stoppers, needle stoppers on this because I'm scared that I don't, because these needles are enormous. I can't find my enormous needle stoppers. This is the Polka Dot Cardigan by Midori Hirose. I have very different feelings about this than the Rain or Shine blanket. Obviously, because anytime you're making a garment, you have to follow the pattern. Actually, I'm not going to say that. Maybe one of you or many of you are so experienced that you have, like the way some of us have a vanilla sock recipe, you have a vanilla sweater recipe, hashtag life goals. I do not. This is something I'm constantly having to refer to the pattern. And the way Midori Hirose writes patterns, they're like 50 pages long. This one specifically, I love the way she writes patterns, but because there are so many sizes of this pattern, it's like the yoke will have 15 pages, but really your size is just 3 pages. So you're just constantly sort of searching in the pattern where you are. So it's definitely one that I'm really loving the knitting process. It's very different from anything on my needles, but I can't just sit down and pick it up. I can sort of right now, but to get to the point I've been at, there's been a lot of having to refer back to the pattern. Anyway, let me just show you. Last time it was much smaller. I hadn't joined yet, and now I have joined. Let me try to make this look like what it is. So here it is. Here is one of the front panels. Here's the other front panel. And then here is the back. This pattern I am making with Sandnes Garn Kos base in the color light pistachio. I always want to call this light celery because it looks like celery to me, like the color, not it looks like a stalk of celery. I was really between two yarns, two Sandnes Garn yarns, Borsta Alpaca and Kos. I finally picked Kos because I wanted this, I had this vision of a very bulky sweater made with very cloud-like yarn to counteract the bulky yarn. Does that make sense? So I think if you make a bulky cardigan out of very dense yarn, it can give it like a heavy look. I wanted a bulky cardigan with like a fluffy look. Do you know what I'm saying? I love when people make sweaters. I feel like this is a big in Europe, like they hold 4 strands of mohair together. I love that look, but I neither like to hold 4 strands together, nor do I want to incur the cost of that. This is going to give that look without having to hold 4 strands of mohair together. So I really like this yarn. It doesn't have a cloyingly soft feel. It has a very realistic alpaca fluffiness that's still woolly and has kind of some texture to it. I really like how it's turning out. And Jessica, my friend, said, Wow, those big holes look like a huge pain to make. They actually are so easy. I have made I have made a shawl, a Stephen West shawl that has all these eyelets similar to this, but it's in a fingering weight. Oh my goodness, it was such a beating. I think because it was such a light fingering weight yarn and this, it's just not. So if you find this pattern appealing and you're like, I don't think that'll be easy to make, it's really, really easy. Basically, you make a yarn over and then you knit 2 stitches into that yarn over. And then on either side of that, there is a decrease. That's all. It's very easy. If you are more of a monogamous knitter than I am, you could knock this out so quick. I was very relieved to see that the sleeves aren't, they don't have those polka dots. They're solid because I forgot. So this morning I was looking because I'm almost done with the body and then I'll be at the hem and then the collar and then the sleeves. But I really didn't want to do like small circumference knitting while making the polka dots. I do think that would be fussy, but because the sleeves are solid, I think the sleeves will go by really fast. I also don't have small circumference needles in a size 15. This is a 10 millimeter needle. Sorry, it's really hard to read this. So I might buy shorties in that size because I have the Chow Goose shorties in the tinies, the mediums, but I don't have the large because I really barely ever knit big chunky things. So this has been a very fun change of pace for me. I really am enjoying it. I can't wait to have the final product because it's going to be such a unique piece in my wardrobe that I think will be very wearable for me. I can't decide if I want it to be a short kind of bomber jacket length or if I want it to be enormous and oversized. Haven't figured that out, and I am not going to bother thinking about that right now. So polka dot sweater by Midori Hirose. I am really enjoying it. I think those decreases in the very chunky yarn look a bit clunky, but I believe they will block out fairly well once I wash it. So that is that. The final thing I wanted to share with you today is this vanilla sock that has been languishing forever that I am determined to finish. I'm at the toe decreases and it would take me 30 minutes to finish the entire thing, and I'm determined to do that this weekend. I have so many random things on the needles right now that it's bothering me a little, and I want to knock out the little things like this and the Musselburgh hat that is this close to being done that I also need to finish so I can just not have it kind of in the back of my head as a thing I need to do. I don't know why, but because of that blanket, I think it's all I ever want to knit. And so it's becoming hard to finish those things that I would usually do in the car when I'm waiting for a kiddo for 15 minutes or whatever. I'm not taking those things. And I think that's why I need to just focus and finish it. And then I'll have a new pair of socks to wear because there's another pair of socks that I've been wanting to make forever. I even have the pattern in my library and I forgot. It is not a vanilla sock. It is the dumpling socks. I think that's what it's called, by Jessie May. And they're so adorable and they're little shorty socks. They're so cute. I would love to make them for my daughter, but I can't cast them on until I finish this pair of socks. So that is all the knitting I have for you today. I am controlling myself. There's so many projects that have excited me for the new year, but I'm not going to talk about them today because I did want to talk a little bit about just life in general and all that good stuff that we always love to chat about. Also, real quick, before I transition to that, this is the big rib sweater. I think that's what it's called. I remember when I was making it, I'd always forget if it was big rib or wide rib, and I think it's big rib. It is by Jessie May Designs. It is in Melted Baby Surrey alpaca. I did not like making this at all. I really didn't like the process to the point where I even cropped the sleeves which I don't usually like a cropped sleeve, but I just wanted it to be done. And so the funny thing about it is it's one of my most favorite shapes. Like, one of the reasons I hate it is because it's made on really big needles, and my ribbing, the combination of the melted baby Surrey alpaca, which is a very, because it has so much alpaca, it's a very unstructured yarn. It has a lot of drape. Combined with the very big needles, the ribbing looks so sloppy, and nothing I did, it didn't matter how I did the ribbing, I've done it all. I researched every twisted rib trick and all the tricks. Nothing cleaned up the ribbing, but the shape of the sweater, like the amount of ease, the way it lays on my body, it's probably one of my favorite sweaters I've ever made. So how's that for irony? The joy of knitting a garment versus wearing a garment are just two very, very different things. This one just wasn't fun to make, but really love the crew neck, but like the wider crew neck. I love the way the neckline, like this ribbing, I love the way there's movement there. It has the perfect amount of positive ease. It hits perfectly on my hips. It's just a lovely sweater, and I never wear it. And I just grabbed it right now, and I'm thinking, why don't I wear it more? Anyway, that's the last knitting thing. Before I forget, also, I wanted to say thank you for every comment that was sent on the last video of the year. I wish I could have responded to them. I didn't, because we literally left town, and then there were so many comments, and I wanted to respond so fully to each that it always kept me from starting. And then I just decided I would just assume all of you who are so delightful and loving and understanding would understand that I didn't respond, but I read every single one, and they all landed and stayed with me, and it gave me so much to think about. One of them, I think it was Janet, had told me about, your path through middle age and your child, experience with your children. And it was just such a beautiful story that stayed with me for days. So I just want you to know that if you send me a comment and I don't respond, it's not for lack of wanting. If it were up to me, I would teleport to every one of you and sit down and have a conversation over a cup of coffee, because I feel like you're all friends to me, and your stories really stay with me. So if you sent me a comment, thank you. You all sent me so many loving and supportive comments on what I told you last time, which was that I was going back to school to get my master's in social work, and my classes started this week. Of course, no rest for the weary. It was just like being shot out of a cannon. My kids and I went back to school on the same day, and my husband left for trial on the same day. And when he leaves, it's for a long time. So it was just, again, like being shot out of a cannon. Oh, gracious. She's starting to snore, and it's going to distract me to no end. So I'm going to pause and move her out of here, and then I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay. We were talking about my going back to school, and I have so many things I wanted to share with you guys about it. I was a little worried, I'm not going to lie, that it wouldn't be the right fit in terms of subject matter that I had hoped it would be. I am a very gut-driven person. I don't make decisions from my brain. I make them from my torso, my heart, and my gut. I often don't know something, and then I know it so deeply, and then it has to be done. And I trust my heart and my gut so much that I don't not listen to it. It has landed me the best things that have happened to me in my whole life. Like marrying my husband was a complete gut-based decision. That is a long story, but moving here was another one of those. It was just being struck by lightning, and I knew it had to happen and I wouldn't stop until it happened, like this specific place, even though I hadn't been here before. So it was sort of like that. When I decided I wanted to get my master's in social work, it was like not driven by fact or information. It was driven by my heart and my just like a deep knowing. And so I was a little bit worried, like, is it actually the right fit for me? Like, are the classes actually going to be what I hope they will be? And as you know, we had a lot of, the first class was, you had to do a lot of reading, and class had started before class started, basically. And through all the pre-work and the first classes, I cannot tell you how perfect of a fit it is for me and what I want to do and what I hoped it would be. It's just so perfect. And I am so relieved by that, because it's a big, it would really suck if it had been other. And all week I have been thinking, this phrase keeps going around in my head: it couldn't have been any other way. I think so many times I have felt regret or sadness at the fact that I didn't know that this is what I wanted to do before, when I was in my 20s, because then instead of building a career through my 20s and 30s, I'm starting that process in my mid 40s. But every time now that I have that thought, I have this true realization that it couldn't have been any other way. I could not have been at this moment. I could not be open or receptive to where I am right now if I hadn't lived all those years and had all those experiences. And I wanted to share that with you because I think it's applicable to all of us. So many of us, no matter what it is, like I got married when I was 27, which I now think is extraordinarily young, like basically child bride level. And then other people don't get married until, one of my best friends didn't get married until she was almost 40. And she's so incredibly happy. Whatever your path is, it couldn't have been any other way. You weren't ready to receive the thing you're wishing happened earlier until you're ready to receive it. I was so immature when I was in my 20s. I needed to live life. And for me, the thing that was going to bring me into myself was becoming a mother. For other people, it's like going to Africa and becoming a doctor in Doctors Without Borders, something much more exotic. For me, it wasn't that. It was the growing up in wisdom that I needed to gain through parenthood, through building a life, through becoming an adult. I wasn't going to be able to become a social worker because a social worker needs to be a much more grounded person than I was in those years. So I keep thinking it couldn't have been any other way, and how grateful I am, rather than regretful, that it's happening now rather than not happening at all. So the takeaway for me from that is stay open to your life, trust that when you are living in alignment with what is right for you, the things that will happen to you will happen to you in the right time. I feel that really, really deeply. And when we live that way, we aren't resenting where we're standing now. We know that it is part of our becoming and our unfolding. And I think this process has given me an even deeper trust in the universe, like the force. You might call it God, whatever it is to you. I have such a deep faith that it will land me as long as I'm staying true to myself and I'm not veering off my lane because of the noise in the world, that I will be where I need to be. So that has been just a really profound feeling of being in alignment with like my life force. As woo-woo as that sounds, that is truly what I've been feeling. Because it's a winding road, right? I often think of the people I know in my life that like went to college, went to law school, became lawyers, became partners, like have moved down it looks to me from the outside, because I have no idea what's going on in their lives, but it looks like this really linear path. For me, it wasn't that. I have lived this life that's gone like this. And why is the straight path better than the winding path? I have no idea why in my mind that is superior. It's just, I think it's part of this appearance of looking like you've always had it all together. And I kind of think having it all together is overrated. I think for me, the winding path has been so rich and colorful and has exposed me to so many people that I wouldn't have met on a straight path. And it has led to me being who I am. And I'm very grateful for that. It's just, anyway, I understand now why so many women in their 50s and 60s say they are the best decades of their lives, because truly you finally stop living according to other people's rules and you're truly living for yourself. And that is the most joyful space to be in. And I'm starting to sense that happening in my life in my mid 40s. So that is my school update. It has started. It is far more work than I thought it would be. It's far more outside of classwork. So I am really trying hard to find balance in my life. While my husband is gone, I have to do everything. And because my son is 15 and not 16, he can't quite drive by himself. It's like a whirlwind of caretaking plus taking care of all the things I need to do for myself. So there's the 2 dogs and their caretaking, the 2 kids and their caretaking, the house, and finally me. And even though those things are really, I have to take care of those things all before I take care of me, I am realizing it's not ranked higher, it's just different. And I have to make the space. Like knitting is a non-negotiable for my mental health. For me to be able to wear all the hats that I wear, I have to knit. For me now to have time to knit, I need to wake up at 5 a.m. and knit for an hour before I have to wake up my kids and do all that stuff. So what I've committed to that, and it's working so well for me. And even when I'm lying in bed, desperate to stay in my warm bed and not get out into the really, really cold room, I do it because I know that hour is so much more fortifying for me than an extra 30 minutes of lying in bed filled with self-loathing that I can't get out of bed. So that is what has been working for me. It's really not about the new year. It's just about this big schedule change I've had, or this big life change that I've had. As far as New Year's, I don't love artificial designations. I don't feel inspired by big birthdays or like calendar changes or any arbitrary thing that society tells us that we need to take as a moment to fix ourselves. I don't love that. I find it silly. I find it very contrived. There are some things that I am leaning into this year and leaning out of. I am leaning out of over-consuming news. I love being informed. I love current events. I'm inspired by all that stuff. But there's a fine line between consuming things to be informed and to be provoked in thought. There's a fine line between that and consuming so much news that you feel hopeless, helpless, frazzled. I'm done with that. So that takes some awareness and consciousness and line drawing for me, but I'm really leaning into that. No more over consuming news, just enough and no more. One thing I am so over, okay? I am so over this. It is never, I am unsubscribing from this fully in 2025, is the constant evolution of health guidance and guidelines. I cannot think of a single thing that makes me more crazy than the constant evolution. It's one year it's don't eat fruit because fruit's bad for you, only eat meat. The next year it's don't eat meat, you'll die, only eat lentils. Don't lift weights, only do cardio. Oh, cardio, don't be a cardio queen, only lift weights. Don't drink wine, only drink the. I'm done. I don't care. We all die eventually. At 44, I now know exactly what works for me to make me feel good in my life right now. I know how to work out. I know what to eat. I know how much to move. I know how much social interaction I need. This might piss some of you off, but I am super sick of hearing about loneliness and as like the new cigarettes. What is loneliness to one person is much needed solitude to another person. I don't want to hear about the average number of friends people have. I don't want to hear about how much social interaction you need for your health. What feels good to you is what you should do. If you have one good friend and that is all you need to be happy, live long and prosper. You don't need all the, extraneous people in your life. Maybe you're a social butterfly and you live for extraneous people and chit chat. Go for it. Know yourself, know what works for you. And if you don't make it this year, that you find out what works for you health-wise. And when I say health, I mean physical, mental, spiritual. You can pry a glass of wine on the weekends out of my cold, dead hands. If I die earlier because I had some wine while I'm unwinding and knitting on a Friday night, I'm fine with that. I am not doing the changing my habits on the whims of the news cycle, okay? That is like my biggest out for the year. I don't even want to see it. It just triggers my anger so much. Okay, much less triggered on the inside. I have realized over the years, the more I compare myself to other people, the less peace I have in my heart. It's not just about happiness, because I think I can be at peace while I'm not happy, and I can be happy and not at peace. But comparing myself to other people is the root of all my mental, I don't know how to put it, like the lack of peace in my heart. And I think when I was younger, it was one set of things. And once I've conquered those set of comparisons, it's a sneaky little monkey and it transforms into other things. Let other people have their lives. Just because you're not living it doesn't mean it's better. Just because it looks different from yours doesn't mean it's better. Get comfortable in knowing and being sturdy in your contentment, your peace, and don't compare. And I find myself, I don't know if it's human nature or my nature, but I tend towards insecurity and comparison. I tend towards looking to other people's lives as a yardstick for my own. And I'm only now realizing the extent to which I do that. And I think realizing is half the battle for me, because when I realize it, suddenly the absurdity really lands and I can kind of abandon that. So this year I am really leaning into giving people nothing but my well wishes, and giving also myself nothing but my own well wishes, and knowing just because someone else is on a path that looks different than mine and looking like they're thriving doesn't mean I need to change anything to thrive. And along with that, it's the shoulds. I should go out and do that. I should have this in my life. If you need it and want it for your true well-being, then seek it, but don't seek it just because other people are doing that. So that is a huge thing. Those are the two things that are going to guide my life this year, is just staying in my lane, keeping my eyes on my paper. Does that make sense? Like I tell my kids that all the time. Just block out the noise and walk your path. Do not get distracted by other people's paths. And then the final thing about this is I read this quote this morning. I forgot this book. It was just out of sight, out of mind for me. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. It's this day by day, yearly, inspirational, kind of solace seeking book. And I spilled water today and it spilled on this book. And it was almost like, oh my gosh, I feel like the water spilled to get me to pick up the book again. And the page in January that I opened to random, it usually has like a quotation or a thought and then an explanation, like a passage. And today's was it landed so deeply in my heart, and I wanted to share it with you. It says, what we reach for may be different, but what makes us reach is the same. I'm going to read it one more time. What we reach for may be different, but what makes us reach is the same. And I found this so profound. And sometimes a very obvious concept just has to be put to you in a new way, and it really lands. And I also this year want to give other people more grace. I think so many times we're hard on other people because we're hard on ourselves. We project it out. And for instance, it's this. Why does she post so much? Why does she wear so much makeup? Why does she exercise so much? Why does she never exercise? Why do they do this, that, or the other? They do it for the same reason you do anything. They do it to feel peace and enoughness and contentment. They're doing it for the same reason. I want to stop questioning why other people are doing something and just give them that same knowing that they're doing everything they do for the same reason I do everything I do. And kind of tamp down the judgment that comes with not understanding. We don't need to understand. Do you know what I mean? We don't need to understand why people are reaching for something. We just need to understand that they're reaching for the same reason we reach for the things that we reach for. I definitely felt inspired by that quote, and I wanted to share it with you. On a completely different topic, reading has been a real struggle for me this year, this end of last year. And this is going to sound crazy, but I feel like Libby, the library app, has broken my reading rhythm. I feel like the accessibility of lots of books and them being library books, so they are free, has made me unable to commit to a book. For instance, I'll have a whole bunch of books on my list, on my queue, and then as they come available, they're tossed out to you. So, I want to read this book. A month goes by, all of a sudden it shows up. But when it shows up, I'm actually reading another book. But the sparkly newness of the new thing distracts me from where I am, and I suddenly find myself either losing interest in what I'm reading or just reaching for the new shiny thing. It's like when you start a new project, the exciting, sparkly beginning is more interesting than the middle, but that new sparkly beginning is going to lead into a new middle. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you feel that way, but it's making me very distracted in my reading life. And the fact that they're free makes it feel easy to abandon. And if I had paid for that book, I would have stayed with it and gotten to the middle where I would be compelled. But I find myself never getting there because I'm so quick to abandon and reach for the next book. So that has been a real struggle for me, and to the point where I'm almost reading no fiction. I have found fiction to be very uninspiring. Instead, I've found the books that I'm able to stay with are memoirs. I don't know why memoirs are so appealing to me right now. And I'm going through this weird Elvis phase. I watched the movie Priscilla by Sofia Coppola a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, and I loved it so much. And it just made me want to know everything about Elvis and everybody in his life. So I highly recommend that movie. Then I started really reading Priscilla's memoir, and now I'm reading Riley Keough and Lisa Marie Presley's memoir that came out last year. It's like a kind of a mashup of Lisa Marie and Riley, and it's absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend the audio version because you get to hear Lisa Marie Presley's voice narrating some stuff, and then you have Julia Roberts reading some stuff, and then you have Riley Keough filling in gaps. It's just such a good book. I love it. The other one from last year that pops into my mind is Demi Moore's memoir. It was absolutely fantastic, and I really want to read, I think, is it Viola Davis? It's an actress. I put it on my queue. I want to read that one because I heard really good things about that. But for some reason, I'm craving memoirs and nonfiction, and I really need to figure out how to make my reading life work again because I love to read. It's such a part of who I am. It inspires me into so many thoughts, but Libby has really broken me. I'm curious if you guys have any shared experience like that. I would love it if you let me know, and how you don't let yourself get distracted by that constant influx of this new title is available to you. Do you want it? I just find that to just constantly break my brain. Okay. I'm going to not apologize for this being long and rambling because that is what this podcast is. It could be renamed the Long and Rambling Knits Pod. Instead, I will say I've been very, very happy to be with you again. It's been such a long time. It's been like 3 weeks, and I just feel such a gap when I'm not, like some empty space inside of me when I'm not having these hours to talk with you guys. So that has resulted in a lot of word flow today. I hope you enjoyed this hour. If you are new here, I hope you will subscribe and come back. If you are a regular returning viewer, I adore you. Thank you for spending time with me and making my knitting life and regular life so rich and beautiful. I hope you have a lovely weekend and you get to knit and enjoy some beautiful weather. Also, my heart is just breaking for the LA fire. If you are affected by it in any way, I am sending every prayer and good wish your way. I just hope the skies open and rain pours down upon you soon. Be well, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.